The Twins have finished their first weekend at Fort Myers, and are you knocking on wood? Nobody got hurt yet. All the pitchers are throwing 95, and all the hitters are driving the ball 400 feet. Find out how true any of that is after getting Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You're darn right it is. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer since before they almost contracted the Twins, a BBWA member since more recently, and a Hall of Fame voter even more recently. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins writer who was a Twins fan before that, and today is the site expert at Puckett's Pond, a blog about the Twins, a very good one too. Today's podcast will analyze the news from Twins camp, which is just underway, but already teeming with goodies. For example, why the arrival of Ty France means Carlos Correa will have to play all 162 games at short. Matt Canterino, a second-round pick in 2019, who seemed on his way to top 100 prospect status before he got all the injuries. Well, he's still trying to make it, and he's one of those guys who's throwing in the mid-90s. We'll also check in on Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, Rule 5er Iverson Castellano, and more. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, please realize today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So, Brandon, Ty France is in camp. He's wearing number 13. Don't remind me of who used to do that. He got a good hype job from Rocco, who says France will play a lot, not in the platoon, and is going to be an effective hitter again. Just you wait. He got a swing back in working order by working with Twins legend, small L, Denny Hocking, and by remembering his Jedi training with college coach Tony Gwynn at San Diego State. That actually is all kind of neat and poignant, and hopefully we'll talk more about that in the future. I saw a video of the defense. Dan Hayes took a closed-circuit video of Ty France, Willie Castro, Jose Miranda, and Edouard Julien doing some work at first base. And let me just say, it's
the old banana runs.
It's a good thing. Yes. And I think Willie Castro slipped out a banana. Let's just say it's a good thing that Ty France is here. That's all I'm going to say. But one of the fun little side details about France's arrival, as noted by Hayes, was that the Twins are no longer apparently in the market for a free agent shortstop because they've spent enough money, more than they did last year, but not as much as they did in 2023. But no more, the Pohlads say, because you're cut off. And that means that Carlos Correa has to play every single game because the other shortstops, air quotes, on the roster are not really fit to play there, at least in my opinion. Yeah. Brandon, tell me they're not going to use Willie Castro and Brooks Lee at short as backups.
Well, I was feeling old. You said he has given him a hype job, but I'm like, I don't know if I even know what that means. I feel so old. But no, I think it's foolish too, because Paul DeJong over the weekend signed a $1 million 1-year deal. And you said to me in the text, well, there's incentives, so it's not exactly comparable, but
1.6. Yeah.
I kind of wondered what the alternative is. Like, should the Twins have signed France or DeJong if they really had to choose? I think the subtext there is that they're choosing between those two. Like if you want to have macaroni for dinner or hot dogs for dinner, some people just kind of nut up and do both or mix them together. I mean, anyway, that's not that pertinent right now. France, lucky number 13. That's a blind spot for me, by the way. Player numbers, like outside of Kent Herbeck, Joe Mauer, Kirby Puckett,
14, 7, 34.
You could ask me, Torrey Hunter, 48. Morneau was 27 and 33. If you ask me player numbers, I am not good at them. So I'm going to lean on you for that. And we've actually seen a few guys change numbers too, but
we're going to have an entire show about this very soon.
What were we talking about again? Ty France and not getting a shortstop?
We're talking about Ty France and the fact that they don't have a backup shortstop.
I find it foolish. And you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if it was more along the lines of all right, Luis Urias, if you'll sign for what DeYoung did, we'll take a chance on you.
It sounds like you're saying Luisa Rise. You're
I know
making
I'm
me very
Urias.
confused.
I'm really, really bad with Spanish sounding names. I'm better than most, but I'm still pretty bad. So Urias, I'm not positive. Now, with that said,
Potato.
I also see Jose Iglesias really pining to be brought back by the Mets, and I don't know. Like, I've seen that that's not likely, but there's still, until both the guys that I think are fits are signed, it's really hard for me to be like, you know what? I am certain the Twins are out on paying one of those guys $1 million. If signing Ty France pushes you out of the Paul DeYoung marketplace, I guess theoretically already has. I don't know. That to me, that's more of a Polad problem than anything else. And if you sign one more position player, I don't know who the 40-man move would be, but you're knocking either Austin Martin or Edouard Julien off the roster, most likely. And we actually had an article about that on Puckett's Pond about who was probably the better fit as the 26th man. I don't think you need both necessarily. I mean, if they're both on the team at some point this year, that's great. But I think you could easily do it and not be like, oh, someone that's really good is going to be sent to St. Paul, and it's going to be a misjustice or I can't think of what I'm trying to say.
David Justice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
miscarriage of justice. Miscarriage of justice.
Oh, right. Not Aaron Miscavige. Isn't he a player? Is that a pitcher?
Anthony Misevich.
Anthony Misevich. Well, that's a different guy. But yeah.
Doug Minkevich. I don't know.
Right.
Former guest of the show
from 2004, doesn't he?
Yeah, former guest of the show.
Yes, maybe future. Who knows? I'm not going to disparage. I'm skeptical too about Ty France coming back, despite the good vibes and the apparent health and all that. Yeah, but I understand why they would say if they are getting it, if it does break down to starting first baseman or backup infielder, I understand why they went with France first and then left the other thing kind of to be decided later. I don't know. I still say they are kind of running out of, DeYoung was a guy. Iglesias would maybe make sense. And we talked about Urias. But I wonder if maybe a trade is in the offing. You mentioned how they have a little bit of depth with people on the bench / they're still prospects, I guess you'd call them.
Yeah.
So it might be time to do a little 2-for-1 action where you improve some part of the team with some of that depth. I think maybe that they could afford to do that. But of course, as somebody reminded me in one of the chats recently, remember the day last year where the Twins had like 4 pitcher injuries in like 24 hours. So
Duran was one of them for sure.
Right. So you never know when that's going to happen. So I suppose we should just knock on wood that they don't have any, but
it would have been Duran, Topa, I think, because Topa missed basically the whole year. Maybe Stewart and somebody else. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It all kind of blends together. Spring training is, and players will tell you that too. Like they say it's 2 weeks too long. I think it's a lot of them are convinced that it could be shorter. Now, for starting pitchers' sakes, to get them ramped up from 60 to 85 to 100 pitches, that's a totally different beast. But I don't remember. But they had like a handful of pitching injuries all at one time that were big issue. So that's just if you were to do like a Chris Paddock plus whatever marginal relief pitcher prospect you like, Brent Hedrick would have been a good fit for this, to get Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Like I could see that. But then as soon as you do that, you got 3 guys that come up with sore elbows, and suddenly Randy Dobnek's on your 40-man roster again. No disparaging Randy or Rick or any of the Dobneks, Jody, Ariel. I don't remember the kid's name, but great family. Love Randy Dobnek. But he is definitely like their 10th starter right now.
Regardless of all that, to reiterate my point, I'm not terribly comfortable with who else would play shortstop,
right?
Even for a game. I mean, based on Willie Castro's results last year and Brooks Lee, very
Is
iffy on
it fair
both
to
those
say
guys.
that you and I are both calling this a bluff?
I think to a certain extent, I think they are crossing their fingers that Correa is healthy now and will be for a while.
Sure.
And he can at least, at worst, is in a position where he's going to play 130 games, and it's not going to be worse than that. Last year it was almost half the season.
The issue is that there's not like a Noah Miller walking through that door where
not on the 40 or invitees. No.
Yeah, we've got a shortstop who can pick it. I don't even know. Pedro Florimon was on the Twins in like 2013. I don't know if he'd really even count. He was supposed to be a really good fielder. He was pretty good. He couldn't hit at all. They didn't even have a guy like that, like even major league adjacent. So I think this is them just saying that. I don't know who represents any of the remaining guys, but if one of those guys is going to sign for $1 million and it's not with the Twins, I'd kind of be like, oh man, that's a miss. That's a miss from the Twins.
Yeah, $1 million. I mean, that's to emphasize that. That's a good part, a really good part for the Twins of France's deal. It is $1 million and there's no incentives, and that's it. His incentive is getting back and playing good again.
And there's only one Paul DeYoung. So like, I don't hate the idea that it wasn't the Twins. Like people are like, oh, the Twins could have done that. I saw someone say the Mariners could have done that. Yeah, but there's one Paul DeYoung. So I mean, at the same time, it's not like every team had the opportunity and every team that was okay with that would get one Paul DeYoung, please. Like you're picking up stamps at the post office or something like that. So that logical fallacy kind of bothers me. But at that price point, I think that would have been a really nice signing for the Twins.
Speaking of picking up stamps, not really. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Matt Canterino coming back after being lost in the jungle figuratively for like 5 years.
Well, we welcome back SelectQuote to our ad family this week. And in sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, World Series, the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. That's a year before I was born, Dave, by the way.
That's the year the Bears won the Super Bowl, my friend.
The Bears. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. So if you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. That's SelectQuote.com/lockedon. And head there today to get started. Once again, SelectQuote.com/lockedon. SelectQuote. They shop, you save.
Brandon, one of the things, the storylines that I'm excited about for this season and hopeful for is Matt Canterino coming through. He's 27 years old. He went to Rice, so he's presumably a smarty. He threw 95 in his first live bullpen session today. Phil Miller notes that he has not thrown in a game in about 900. I'm updating because this was a couple days ago. About 932 days and counting. And he's had, I think, 4 season-ending injuries, or maybe one of those was COVID. I don't know. He had a forearm strain, had an elbow that turned into Tommy John, and then he had rotator cuff strain. Throw COVID in there. And this was a guy who was a second-round pick in 2019.
19-something.
In 2019.
1999.
It hasn't been that long. That's how long I've been a baseball writer since. That's a different thing entirely. But I'm really hopeful. Now, I saw, you know how we've talked before about how Phil asks questions and you can kind of tell when someone has answered a question and it must have been Phil that asked it.
Yep.
Yes. someone asked a question, and Canterino, I don't know if this is a one-on-one interview or a group or what, but he says, I don't think the last 5 years have been a waste by any means. So I can just imagine Phil going up to a guy and saying, Matt, do you ever feel like you just wasted your life for 5 years?
I guarantee you that's what happened. That is 100%. So So Matt, the last 5 years, you barely pitched. Would you call that a waste? Like something like that. That had to have been Phil. Like there's very little doubt in my mind.
But he says he recovers. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I have no regrets about any of this. I tried my best. I feel really good now, and I'm still enjoying playing baseball. So that is wholesome and lovely, and I like to hear that.
So Canterino said something funny to me, and I don't think I'm betraying his trust because it was just conversational. But I said, "Hey, man, hope you're doing well." Because I saw him at the Twins Fest live.
Yes.
And he was walking up the steps. And I said, "Hey, man, hope you're doing well. How you feeling?" He goes, "Feeling good. We're going to give this thing one more shot." And I don't know if that means like if he gets hurt again, it's over. He's going to be done.
Yeah.
And reading what I just relayed in the same vein of what he told Phil, we assume Phil, I don't know. I mean, maybe the writing is on the wall that he's like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't waste the last 5 years. I don't think he wants to keep fighting arm injuries forever. So I'm not trying to say he's ready to retire or anything, but I wonder, like that has to take a mental toll on a guy. The thing that you were born to do and that you've done well for now 27 minus the last 3 years of your life, and probably not pitching when you were 1, but you get what I mean.
Yes. Having
that taken from you is hard. And so I don't know. I wonder if he's not to a point though where it's like, man, I got to figure some things out. So I don't know. I'm just keeping an eye on that. I don't want to be like, oh, I knew it was coming, because that's not at all what I'm about. But I'm rooting for him. He's a great dude. He was actually, I think, at the center of the Settlers of Catan outbreak in spring camp last year. So, which it's a game I've never understood why people enjoy. And you know what? I would love you if you're listening and are heated about me talking badly about Settlers of Catan to leave comments in the comments section, because that's good for the algorithm. I don't understand that. But if you want to flame me for not liking Settlers of Catan, let me hear it, because I can handle it. I'm a big boy.
I had forgotten about that. At first, I'm like, are you talking about some sort of cult? I mean, but I meant it in a, like a David Koresh.
Your mileage may vary. Every time I see someone that wants to play Settlers, I'm like, that guy's weird. He's probably going to tell me about this third party candidate he's voting for. Get out of my face.
Is it a video game, or do you have?
No, it's a board game. It's a board game. It's like I don't even know.
Keith Law about it.
I could see him being a Settlers hipster. Like I liked it before it became mainstream, and I love Keith. Sure. But I also think, like, if you told someone made a fake Keith profile and they said, I love Hamilton Beach, Applebee's, and something else, and it was like the most generic, like, or Olive Garden, like you gave him the Olive Garden thing, but it was like Olive Garden, Hamilton Beach is trash because it's like the basic model of Blender and stuff. It just cracked me up because it was very antithetical to Keith.
He was going to come through the internet and kill me when I said it. He was into board games like Monopoly.
Yeah,
Monopoly. How could you do me like that? So,
yeah, you almost had him hanging up on us. And I know other prospect types. So I got another one I want to have on the show. But you might have gotten us on the personal Keith Law blacklist with that. I'm glad he stayed on the line, because he was great. That's a great episode. If people haven't checked that out yet, go back and do that.
That's good advice.
But Canterino, I would love to see him healthy. Yeah. He's a great dude too. Like, he's very engaging, very friendly, very nice on Twitter. And so you pull for guys like that. Human nature. Again, I know in the business, you and I both know you don't root from the press box, but you do develop a human connection with some of these guys. And my connections with the guys that I covered are disappearing because those guys are leaving and retiring. But with Canterino, it's like, oh man, yeah. If a good guy was ever going to get a shot, I'd want it to be him, and I'd want it to be now.
Bobby Nightingale said to look at like some of his box scores and his statistics from the minors, because they're just
crazy.
At like 85 innings total in his first 6 seasons. So that's That's how big a hill to climb. A 148 ERA in that time with 130 strikeouts, 130 in 85 innings and 35 walks, too many, in 26 appearances. That's crazy. He's only got 34 innings logged at AA. But Rocco, this is Rocco's quote. We have he said very twice, high hopes for Canterino. So maybe Canterino feels like this is it, but I think Rocco feels like he could be. And I think, this reminds me a little bit of a tactic I heard last year when the Pirates were messing with Paul Skeens' his service time.
Yeah.
They were bringing him up late. And they're like, why put Skeens in the minor leagues at all? Why waste the bullets on Skeens? Now, I'm not saying that Canterino is Skeens, but like, why waste? Why, it seems like if he's one more throw closer to the next disaster, see how he does a little bit in spring, and then bring him up.
Have him on the fast track. Yeah. Those numbers, I was actually going to invoke the same name of Paul Skeens, is like, those are Paul Skeens pitching in Conference USA numbers. Like, that's
right
out of control. So, I mean, it's exemplary control, but out of pocket. It's the amount that is crazy is wild, to steal a phrase from the group chat.
So we knock on wood and hope that Matt stays healthy and gets to live out his dream and keeps a good head about him. So we've got a few more Twins players to talk about from the first weekend of spring training, and we will do that right after this message.
When the game tips off, and in this instance, it's the NBA All-Star Game going on this weekend, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because with FanDuel, you can place live get bets, easy for me to say, throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you doze off for the second and third quarter, like I usually do, doesn't matter. You can jump back into the action in the fourth. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into an SGP. That's a same game parlay. So for me, I love that live betting feature because, again, if I feel a little disconnected, a little disenchanted with how the middle of the game is going, and I want to have that fourth quarter rally, get some energy, get some excitement going, that's the way to go. Plus, the app, super easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, FanDuel.com, and it'll get a shot at $150 in bonus bets. Just got to hit that first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
So there's a good, I would imagine that actually most of our listener viewers follow the Twins development Twitter, but that's one of the better.
It's a good account.
If you're a Twins fan, that's a good account to follow. I was looking at some of the things they were writing about today. They mentioned live batting practice on the minor league side. Charlie Soto, that's Charlie with 2 E's at the end, topped out. Not only did he top out at 100 miles an hour, they amended it later. He averaged 100 miles an hour today throwing.
Dude's not even 20 yet.
So
I don't think he's 20 yet. I take that back.
I think he's close. Hopefully this stays on. Connor Prelip topped out at 98 miles an hour, sort of the left-handed kind of version of Canterino. So isn't he left-handed?
Yeah. He's like the yin to Canterino's yang. And if even one of those guys throws 100 innings in the big leagues, it's going to be a sight to behold because they are electric. And Soto, like, I don't want this to be too convenient of a comparison because there probably will be some allegations of that, but I see so much Brusdar Gratterall in him. Heavy fastball, 100 and some miles per hour. And if I'll be interested to see what the strikeout numbers look like because Gratterall's fastball was heavy. So it was more along the lines of like, if you saw it and hit it, you'd probably hit it on the ground. I don't know if Soto is going to be more of a swing and miss guy. Obviously, if he is, that takes his ceiling to whole new heights. But I don't know, man. I mean, it'd be fun to see what a guy like that looks like as a starter, Hunter Green style, or the comparisons kind of end there. Not many guys throw that hard out of the rotation long term. So And again, too, maybe he could move quickly. High pick, but also I think he's kind of late to the game when it comes to pitching. He kind of grew out of. I think they saw he grew out of shortstop and just started pitching like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm excited to see what he's capable of. But that Twins development X account, Twitter account, Twixer account is it's so fun because if you're following prospects even from a distance, you get video and just a very little exciting snippet of what they're capable of.
From a distance. So we have numbers on other people too. There are lots of numbers. Dan Hayes noted that Dan Hayes, who is doing a great job. All the reporters are doing really good jobs of interviewing people and doing feature stories and catching us up. But Dan Hayes was also going from station to station, seeing all kinds of things and developments. And Pablo Lopez was throwing 95, 96 during live BP. So that's good. Joe Ryan coming back from his major tear. Was 92.
Major tear. Oh my gosh. Yes. I wanted to highlight that because that is an incredible turn of phrase.
Thank you very much. Anyway, he was throwing 92, which is what he said he wanted to do. So good for you, Joe. Joe also got married in the offseason. That's a lady who was prominently featured on his Instagram if you want to peer into their private lives.
I subscribe for the dog personally.
Absolutely. What does that mean?
Yeah. No, he has a dog, like a cute.
Oh, that's
dog.
right. For the dog, yes.
No, I'm not making a joke. Like I love the dog.
What else did I see? Twins taking BP on the field on consecutive swings. This caught my attention. Ryan Jeffers hit line drives of 424 feet and 416 feet. How do we know? Because there's metrics. There's sensors in the ballpark that measure how far guys are hitting the ball in batting practice.
Yeah, was it Hit Tracker or something like that?
Yeah, TrackMan.
TrackMan, yeah.
So it's like Joe Gunderson, one of my Twitter followers, is like, how do you know this, Dan? And it's like, they're measuring it in spring training. We know that Ryan Jeffers hit 2 balls consecutively, 424 and 416. And also, Royce Lewis flied out to right center in his first at bat, so the slump continues.
Boy, are his arms tired. Well, he said flew instead of flied, and so I didn't say it. I didn't, because flied is what would get me to not say that. It was also like,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, then the Twins also tweeted everyone in camp tomorrow, and I said, "Are you sure about that?" With a picture of Carlos Santana. It's pretty unlikely he's going to be on time tomorrow.
Yeah, especially. That'd be great. Oh, man, I went to the wrong place. I'm not even in the right state.
Didn't Dexter Fowler did that, except he was serious, and he signed with the Cubs.
Right. Well, that's kind of a cool story. I like that.
Yeah.
By the way, that flied, yeah. Did you know that the word flied is not really seen in nature except in baseball when you hit a fly ball to the outfield? There's no other use for that word.
Yeah, I assume so.
I used to work for the Associated Press, and one time we had a news guy coming in. This was like maybe the first or second year that I was a helper, and I was like a quote runner at that time. I wasn't writing yet, and he's like, "Flied out to left. What language is this?" And because nobody says flied except in baseball.
Yep.
So boy, his arms are tired.
I'm reading $sign on the Muscle, which is a great book, and there's a lot of like things where the author explains it as baseball lingo, and it's stuff that sounds like you would use it elsewhere, but you never do. And
right.
It's incredible how it's ingrained in my brain from playing, and I still use it. But I guess I'm like, I don't hear that from anybody else in my life other than people I played ball with.
Right. It is kind of, I don't know. It's like an attempt to have a secret code that no one else can understand, sort of thing. Phil had a nice little, I don't know how much we learned, but he talked to Bailey Ober about his season last year. And there were a couple of, more so than anything Ober said, he had more quality starts 18 than any other Twins pitcher. His ERA would have been 3.18 instead of 3.98 without those 2 hiccups, one against the Royals on opening day and then the other one against the Braves later in the year. I thought that was interesting. He had 5 starts without giving up a run, the most on the team, and 5 more starts of giving up 1 run. And he threw the team's only complete game of the season. That final and 17 is where we got the final 17 outs against the A's.
I know you'll remember this, but you remember how messed up people were over that Kansas City start?
I was just thinking about that.
Because you had him in our league, and I was trying to trade for him. And if I had any guts, I would have just tried to do it then, but I didn't. And then he got back on. People were losing their mind over that, though. Like, it was terrible.
I mean, I was even questioning Rocco. I mean, I don't think that like any one decision he made the season go wrong, but it certainly seemed to go wrong right after that happened. So I don't know if there's any causation.
Well, I mean, also the first start in Kansas City where everyone's like, whoa, maybe last year was a fluke.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe they were hiding somebody in the fountains. That's what I was joking about that. But
oh, yeah.
no, but yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the one later in the season where he had a shutout after 7 and like 90 pitches, and he took him out.
Right.
The team fell apart right after that. Like right as soon as he left the game.
Yep. No, that I do remember that.
Seemed like it.
But that, like, the usual suspects were freaking out about if he was an absolute fluke the year before, and I just was like, it's one start. The Royals are going to be decent, and they were more than decent. Ended up being a whole lot of nothing.
If they were indecent, that would be terrible because you got to play with clothes on.
Yep.
So 2 more things. Louis Varland apparently is now Louis Varland.
I guess.
Now, I don't know if Dan meant like St. Louis or Louis the 14th, but he's no longer Louis IE. He's Louis Varland. So we're going to have to call him Louis now.
St. Louis? No, Navin Johnson.
And also the Twins have signed right-handed reliever Erasmo Ramirez to a non-roster deal with an invite to big league camp. I think I'm quoting Bobby Nightingale here. He had a 4.35 ERA and 20 2/3 innings for the Rays last year. I thought it was Erasmo Ramirez who played with the Mariners 20 years ago, but that would have been too long. So he's like my age. That's not that guy. It's a different.
Oh, well, he also gave up like a 500-foot homer to Miguel Sano that you can find online pretty easily. But yeah, nice depth arm to have at St. Paul.
All right. So, yeah, really. Yeah, sorry, there's no room at the end here. For Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown. We're going to talk more about the Twins another day, but until then, we're going to Alexei Casilla tomorrow night. Get out.
Bye.